draw. My master's is in painting. I've gone through a period of wood carving. Joe got tired of lugging the big logs into the car. So that was sort of short-lived. After I finished teaching, I had taught hand building and ceramics, and just took classes at the college where he taught in ceramics, just so that I could play in their studio. And so I've done most everything. I love to do printmaking. I sometimes paint my ceramics, so. I'm a senior now, and I feel like I see and live more joyously than most people. Everything is much more exciting when I'm doing art. That's where I feel comfortable, not where I feel comfortable here, but doing my own artwork is just the best thing in the world, because I love doing it. I love working with my hands. I knit, I sew. Anything that I can do with my hands, I'm happy to do. Some of it is maybe close to being art. I used to draw on that all the time. It's been part of my life, all my life. I love being foolish with my artwork. That's great fun. I wish I could be loose and foolish with my artwork, but yeah, why not? Why not play with it and push the edges and make people a little uncomfortable with what you're doing. That to me is a real pleasure. I don't want them to find it pretty. I want them to be intrigued by it and wonder why on earth I did what I did. I also was in therapy at one point, and I did myself, again about 4 feet high, and the therapist confronting me. And he was a dog, I was a cat, and and that was a neat experience, and people thought it was funny and delightful, and it wasn't at all. There was a whole lot of stuff going on there. The card represents the angles of anger from when it began to present day, but there's a little bit of yellow on one edge, which is what makes life possible, and it represents Joe. Yeah, I never know what's going to develop. It's the clay that leads me the entire time. That's true with drawing for me as well. I start out and I'm just making lines or dots, and it's the process that's the fun thing. Just the clay, where it wants to go. It's a very living material. It speaks to you and says, "No, Em, you need to go here," and so you do. It always leads me. I never know when I start something. I can have a general idea I'm going to do a figure, but the process is completely led by the clay. I'm just the workman, workwoman, work person. I finally got a teaching position in a private boarding school in New Hampshire, which was heaven on earth, teaching high school. which I absolutely loved. I loved the kids. We had unbelievable facilities. It was just heaven. Hard work, because you had to be there 24/7, 7 days a week. But I love the students. They were great. They would try anything, absolutely anything. We painted walls in the art studio. We had a graffiti floor. I drove the headmaster crazy because the kids did such wild things, but we had a wonderful time. When I was teaching, my students went all over the world to go home for Christmas. And so just before they left, I told them that I would really miss them desperately and that I wanted them to send me something in the mail. And it had to be three-dimensional, and they couldn't wrap it. And I got the most delightful things in the mail. One of the girls lived in California, and she sent me all the way across the country to New Hampshire a bottle containing Pacific Ocean water. And she had covered it with paper mache and made it into a lighthouse and sent it off in the mail as a lighthouse. The bottle arrived intact with water in it still. Another girl sent me a yellow Playtex glove, which she had stuffed. And then she put bracelets, painted bracelets on it, and jewelry, rings, and then put my address. And they loved doing it. And it was a tradition. After that year, that every Christmas they would send something. And when I retired, our mailman was just devastated. He said, I used to look forward to having people, seeing what would be sent in the mail to you. And they managed to do it. One of the students took his work of art into the post office, and the woman said, I will not mail that, you have to box it up. So he sat in his car until she went out for lunch, and then went in, spoke to another mailman, and sent it to me, and I got it. Build their confidence, because in high school they think they can't draw. And I can teach anyone to draw, and to draw well, so that they're happy with their drawings. But I can't make an artist necessarily, but I can teach them enough about drawing so that they're proud of their work. And that's the wonderful thing about art. It teaches you to see more than you would ever see in the world. I remember one of my students at the college came in and he said, Em, I was out driving and I saw these mailboxes all lined up. And he said, I drove past them every single day, but suddenly they were works of art. And if you can give a kid that much so that they're aware of what's beautiful in the world, then that's a real gift to the kids. Ceramics can be a craft, but it also can be a work of art. And I guess a work of art is something where you see it and you get a certain sense of it, but then when you look back again, you get more and you find different things and it grows on you, and it's always telling you a new and different story. Craft, I think, tends to be more functional. It can be beautiful, but you get it all at once. The pine needle baskets that Jim Shanauer creates goes beyond crafts. There's a great deal to see in what he does, and it has a lasting effect on the viewer. 'cause you really have to know what's going on inside your body in order to draw it. At least that's the way I do it. I draw what I see, but I also draw what I feel. And doing figures in clay really helps me to focus more on my drawing, if that makes any sense whatsoever. And they made up their mind that this would be the most beautiful ceramics studio in all of Olympia. And it is. It's a gorgeous studio. They had all these cabinets tucked away, and it was in their way. It was out of houses that they had. So they brought them all in and took off handles on the cupboards and made them all matching handles, and put in a new sink for us, and even a Kleenex dispenser. And we would bring our own towels here to use. Before, we now have a towel dispenser. Just everything they did was done with such care and such craftsmanship, and they were so proud of what they did. They were truly artists. So I've brought in my magazines. Elsa McLean, who gave us the kiln, also brought in some of the older magazines that she saved, and we're beginning to collect a library of good art books. So it's very exciting. With a lump of clay, doing pinch pots, making them sensitive, not so much to what they see and can control, but what they feel. Ceramics is all about working with your hands and the touch and the feel of the clay. I lose myself in it. Put on some good music, some jazz or classical music, and do my work, and I'm as happy as can be. Nothing troubles me, and I don't feel sad then. It's wonderful. It's like reading a good book, where everything works. The writing is beautiful, and the story is beautiful, and you're touched by it. That's what art is for me. I love doing it all.